Ever wonder why Takis hurt so good? There's a fine line between heat and pain, and every fan knows exactly when that line is crossed. Plenty of chips are spicy, but Takis burn sharper, hit harder, and keep stinging even after you stop eating. Today we're breaking down why, from the burn on your lips to the fire on your tongue, and what's really happening inside your mouth. Let's dive in before the next burn hits. If you've ever opened a bag of Takis, you've seen it. That thick layer of red seasoning clinging to every surface. That's not accidental. Takis are designed to maximize how much seasoning makes contact with your mouth, and that design is exactly why they hurt more than other spicy chips. Let's start with the coating itself. Takis use a dense layer of seasoning powder, noticeably heavier than most tortilla chips. But powder alone doesn't stick well to a dry surface. That's where oil comes in. Each chip is coated in a thin layer of fat that acts like a binding layer, helping the seasoning stick. So when you bite down, you're not just tasting spice, you're getting a concentrated dose of it delivered straight to your lips, tongue, and gums. Then there's the shape. Unlike flat chips, Takis are rolled into tight cylinders. That small design choice makes a big difference. A rolled chip increases surface area, and more surface area means more room for seasoning. More seasoning means more capsaicin, the chemical compound responsible for the burning sensation, and more citric acid, which amplifies the sting. But even more than that, when you bite into a Taki, the rolled structure forces the seasoning into direct contact with multiple parts of your mouth at once. The outer layer hits your lips. The inner curve scrapes against your tongue. The sharp edges press into your gums. Every angle is loaded with powder, and every angle delivers pain. This isn't just about stronger flavor, it's about maximizing contact. The more capsaicin and acid that physically touch your mouth, the more pain receptors activate at once. And Takis are engineered to make sure that happens in every bite. That's the first layer of the answer. Takis hurt more because they're built to increase exposure. If you've ever eaten Takis, you know the burn doesn't hit everywhere equally. Your tongue might sting, but your lips, they're on fire. There's a biological reason for that. The skin on your lips is very different from the tissue inside your mouth. It's thinner, more delicate, and far more exposed. While the inside of your mouth is lined with mucous membranes designed to handle friction and chemical exposure, your lips are essentially thin skin, closer in structure to your eyelids than to the tougher skin on your hands. That thin barrier means the capsaicin in Takis has less distance to travel before reaching nerve endings, and your lips are packed with them. They contain one of the highest concentrations of sensory receptors in your body, which is why they're so sensitive to temperature, touch, and irritation. But structure isn't the only factor. Inside your mouth, saliva acts as a buffer. It dilutes irritants, helps wash them away, and forms a thin protective layer over your tongue. Your lips don't have that protection. They produce very little moisture and are constantly exposed to air, which makes them drier and more vulnerable. So when you bite into a Taki, the seasoning hits your lips first, before it even reaches your tongue. And because they're dry, the powder sticks. The oil in the seasoning helps it cling even longer, increasing contact time with some of your most sensitive skin. Add citric acid into the mix, and the sting intensifies. Acid irritates exposed tissue. On your tongue, saliva helps manage it. On your lips, it lingers. That's why your tongue may recover faster, while your lips keep burning. And every time you lick them to try and soothe the pain, you're often just spreading more capsaicin around. You finish the bag, you wipe your hands, you wait for the burn to fade, but it doesn't. Sometimes it even feels like it's getting stronger. That lingering heat, the kind that sits on your lips and tongue long after the last chip is gone, isn't just leftover spice. It's chemistry working against you. Capsaicin, the molecule responsible for the burning sensation in peppers, has one critical property. It's fat-soluble, not water-soluble. It dissolves in oils and fats, not in water. And that creates a problem, because your instinct after eating something spicy is to drink water. But water doesn't remove capsaicin, it can actually spread it. Since water can't bind to the molecule, it simply moves it around your mouth, redistributing the burn instead of washing it away. Now add oil to the equation. As I mentioned before, Takis are coated in fat to help the seasoning stick. That same oil helps capsaicin cling to your lips, tongue, and gums. Saliva, which is mostly water, can't easily break that bond. And there's another layer. When you chew a Taki, tiny fragments of seasoning break apart and settle into the small crevices of your mouth, between teeth, along the gums, under the tongue. Those particles continue releasing capsaicin over time. So even after you stop eating, the irritants are still there, still active, still triggering your pain receptors. That's why the burn lingers. Not because it's extra spicy, but because it's designed to stick. Takis don't just burn, they sting. There's a sharpness to the sensation that feels different from other spicy snacks. More immediate, more pointed. And that difference comes down to one ingredient many people overlook: acid, specifically citric acid and lime seasoning. Most spicy chips rely mainly on chili powder. You get capsaicin, you get warmth, a slow-building burn that spreads across your tongue. It's intense, but it's predictable. Takis layer acid on top of that heat, and that changes the experience. Citric acid is an irritant on its own. It's what makes lemons and limes taste sour. In higher concentrations, it can create a stinging sensation even without spice. So when you bite into a Taki, the acid and capsaicin hit at the same time. And that's where things escalate. Capsaicin activates heat-sensitive pain receptors. Citric acid doesn't trigger those same receptors, but it lowers the pH in your mouth, which makes the surrounding tissue more sensitive. In simple terms, the acid makes your nerves more reactive. So when capsaicin kicks in, the burn doesn't just feel hot, it feels sharper. That's why Takis don't give you the slow, rolling warmth of something like a jalapeno chip. They hit fast, they sting, and the sensation feels more aggressive. With most spicy chips, you're dealing with one primary irritant. With Takis, you're dealing with two, working at the same time. The acid amplifies the heat intensifies the sting. And together they create a burn that feels more pointed than other snacks in the aisle. There's something uniquely aggressive about the way Takis feel in your mouth. And it's not just the seasoning, it's the chip itself. Takis are hard, not just crispy, actually dense. When you bite down, they don't crumble softly like a standard tortilla chip or dissolve quickly like a puffed snack. They snap. They fracture into sharp, jagged pieces that move across your tongue, gums, and the roof of your mouth as you chew. And every one of those edges is coated in seasoning. That texture matters because it increases friction. Softer chips break down quickly. They mix with saliva, soften, and become easier to swallow. The seasoning disperses and dilutes relatively fast. Takis resists that process. The rolled, compact structure holds its shape longer, which means those fragments continue pressing and scraping against the tissue in your mouth with every chew. And because each fragment is coated in capsaicin and citric acid, that friction spreads irritants across more surface area. Then there's the dry powder itself. Dry seasoning behaves differently from sauce or fresh chili. Jalapeno has moisture. The heat is intense, but it's contained. A powdered coating, on the other hand, disperses easily. It settles into the small crevices between teeth, along the gums, under the tongue. And because it's dry, it clings. That combination, hard texture plus abrasive powder, creates a sensation that feels sharper than many other spicy snacks. It's not just chemical irritation, it's physical interaction layered on top of it. Compare that to something like Flamin' Hot Cheetos. They're airy and puffed. They dissolve quickly once saliva hits them. The seasoning is still strong, but the structure softens almost immediately. Doritos are flatter and thinner. The seasoning is distributed, but the chip doesn't fracture in the same compact, cylindrical way. Takis are different. The rolled shape, dense crunch, and heavy coating all work together. The chip doesn't just carry the spice, it actively presses it into contact with your mouth. That added friction changes how the burn feels. It's sharp, layered, and sustained. And that physical design is part of why Takis don't just taste spicy, they feel more intense. Takis didn't become popular by accident. They were designed to be intense from the start. When they entered the market, they weren't trying to compete with mild tortilla chips. The rolled shape was unusual. The seasoning was heavier. The flavors were louder. And that bright red coating? It was impossible to ignore. The mess became part of the appeal. The stained fingers, the bold color, the overwhelming flavor. Takis weren't meant to be subtle. Then social media amplified everything. Eating Takis became a spectacle. Reaction videos, challenges, people testing how much they could handle. The pain wasn't something to hide. It became the reason people tried them in the first place. And instead of softening the formula, the brand leaned in. Bolder flavors, thicker seasoning, louder identity. Takis weren't built to be comfortable. They were built to be extreme. So the next time you open a bag of Takis and feel that first sting on your lips, you'll know it's not random. It's not just extra spice. It's the rolled shape increasing contact, the dense powder maximizing exposure, the oil helping it cling, the acid making your nerves more reactive, the texture adding friction to every bite. Takis don't just taste intense. They're designed to feel intense. And once you understand that, you start noticing it. So now we're curious. When you eat Takis, what hits you first? The lips? The tongue? The afterburn? Drop your experience in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns of the science behind your favorite snacks, the stuff happening underneath the flavor, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.